Welcome to My Career Journey, a podcast that highlights different career paths, tackles tough topics, and shares actionable tips and insights. I'm Emily.
And I'm Allegra. We're your hosts and both career switchers. In each episode, we'll talk about our experiences, learn from others, and help you find happiness and success in your career journey. Let's get into it.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for today's episode. In our very first episode, we shared the first part of our career journeys, and that was our lives as musicians. And we also shared kind of what led up to us wanting to switch careers.
So today we're going to talk about a little bit of the nitty-gritty, how we made those switches, where we think we did things well and where we think we could have learned or maybe done things differently, and how we got to where we are now. I will say this was 5 years ago that we were doing this. So picture where you were at the beginning of the pandemic. I was wrapping up, I had given notice at my job at the university. I had transitioned my nonprofit, and then I was preparing to go on a sabbatical because I didn't know what I wanted to do next. And I knew I was so burnt out that I needed time to brainstorm, reflect, and heal before I dove right back into that. Emily was totally out of work because guess what? People weren't performing. Right?
Yeah, and also I was feeling super stuck at that time too.
Mm,
So in a way, like as much as the pandemic sucked,
yeah.
I was kind of glad for that time to kind of reflect and take a step back and be like, okay, I want to do something else with my life.
Well, especially like you're the kind of person that you're going to jump into the next thing and you're going to learn, and so a forced pause probably is like, okay, you wouldn't have done that on your own probably.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think I would have just kept feeling stuck, and it just would have taken a lot for me to really commit to making the change.
Yep. Okay. So you had a forced switch, but like, what did you do once you realized you were stuck and something needed to change?
So I had about 2 months where I just like researched a ton of different career options, and I was just like looking up stuff every day. But the issue was a lot of the ones that I was looking up either required a degree of some sort or like some sort of specialized training.
Mm.
And even if they didn't, they felt sort of unapproachable, or at least I didn't feel like I would even know where to begin if I were to switch into the careers. However, I did hear of these coding boot camps where you did like intensive training for 6 months and then you could get a job right out of the boot camp. And I had
It's pretty promising. It's pretty promising.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they have that job guarantee clause.
Oh, they'll get
saying,
you.
oh, yes. I mean, you have to read the fine print, but yeah. Yeah, but I had heard of people actually getting jobs after these boot camp programs. So I started looking into them.
I know we both did the boot camp thing, and it took me longer than you to realize that tech was something I wanted to get into, but it's like the promise of some short training that will get you into a new career quickly. It's much shorter than a university like degree or any other kind of specialized kind of technical training.
Yeah. So I tried coding and knew that wasn't an option. I just wasn't feeling it as much. So I looked into other programs in the boot camp because they had like data science. They had this thing called UX design. Yeah. They had UI design and maybe one other thing. But so I ended up looking into the UX design, which is, for people that don't know, it's user experience design. And it's basically creating products or services based on what people want and making them enjoyable and easy to use. So to me, that sounded like a lot of fun. And
yeah, it's like the people side. Well, maybe this is my bias, but it's like the people side of technology in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I started doing a lot more research into that specific field.
Yep.
And yeah, I watched a ton of like day in the life videos.
Thank goodness for YouTube. I mean,
seriously,
yeah. That was helpful.
How about you? Did you do a lot of research as well?
Well, I did. I mean, my goals were much less broad, a little bit like similar. I wanted to be in tech because I thought that was a place where people were investing in the industry and also in people's growth within that industry. I wanted to think about something where I could leverage my strengths and all this. But actually, so I looked back, I have this folder called Job Hunt in a Google Drive where I tracked all of my documents from my job hunt, like back in the day.
I have something similar too.
I would recommend it to anybody because I don't journal or anything like that. But for thinking about, okay, what did I do? I found 4 different kind of hopes that were guiding my next careers. Find a company with a clear vision that aligns with my values, find a role that puts my strengths to work where I can add value, have a supportive boss and growth opportunities so I can bring the best to clients, colleagues, community, and then be part of a strong team, ideally one that has fun. So while tech was
Love that.
interesting to me, I know it was like, I was like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, these things are still true. But
Yeah.
it led me to be open to a lot of things. But I have a background in community engagement, thinking about strengths that I could leverage as a career shifter. It's like community engagement, people centered, well, now what I would call human centered design, with creating experiences for music. I could do that with digital experiences. Like you, yeah, looked into the boot camps. And in case you've never looked into a boot camp, some of them were like $16,000.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So I did a $500 boot camp where
Mm.
I got introduced to the fundamentals of UI UX, and then that was really informative. Uh, but I also looked into careers like a bike mechanic and staging houses, and volunteering or like serving again on a nonprofit. But I kind of wanted to shift out of that, so I didn't really think about that too seriously. But yeah, it was like the core kind of hopes were my grounding rather than any one specific industry necessarily.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I had a couple things. I didn't know like where I wanted to go, but I did know I didn't want to go back to school
Yes.
and get a degree. That was one. I was like, no, because I'd done undergrad and masters like all in a row, and with music, it was so intense. Um, and then I knew I was willing to invest money, but I wasn't going to pay tens of thousands of dollars to go to
Yes.
school for multiple years. Um,
Yep.
and yeah, and I knew I wanted to be able to get a job relatively quickly, ideally within like 6 months to a year, but that was flexible based on what I decided to go into.
Yeah.
And then I think the fourth thing, similar to what you said, was I wanted to feel like I was making more of an impact and
Yes.
actually kind of be able to help people more than I felt like I was as a musician.
Yep, absolutely. Well, okay, so I know you ended up at a boot camp. Did you talk to a lot of people throughout this?
I did talk to a few people, but I relied more on my research for this one because I kind of like knew in the back of my mind I'd made the decision once I found UX design that I was going to go into it. It was more like talking to people to validate that decision.
Oh, okay.
So, yes, I did talk to a few people, but I ended up talking to more people after I switched into the industry to kind of start building my network and stuff.
Got
So,
it. Oh, that's
yeah.
interesting. I feel like I went on a listening tour. That
Mhm.
was like I did the research too, and I found something like it's called Career Karma. They had live talks, research, and ratings, especially about boot camp and people who had gone into tech from non-traditional backgrounds. So that was really helpful.
Yeah.
But I spoke with a lot of people, mostly who I known had switched into tech. And like
Mhm.
we've talked about, there were a lot of software developers because, and you and I both tried coding. There's a lot of similarities with the nitty gritty of music notation and pattern
Mhm.
recognition and problem solving and time on your own. But it was fun. Just couldn't see it being my job. But I talked to a lot of people, and especially once I did the boot camp, then started direct messaging people on LinkedIn, talking about, okay, what's it like being in user experience? And
Mhm.
would you recommend it? What's the field like? How do you get a job? And then kind of realized that it was pretty oversaturated for me.
Yes. Yeah, same. So while I did the UX design bootcamp program, I did end up specializing. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't, because I knew I couldn't compete. Like, I don't think we explained what UI is. So UI is user interface design, and that's more like the visual elements of the designs and the graphics. And I didn't have a graphic design background, so I couldn't compete with all these people that did. So
Well,
that's kind
and
of why.
in your
Yeah.
boot camp, did you have a lot of people who were designers?
Um. Yeah. Well. Yeah. I mean, it was pretty big range of people.
Okay.
So yeah, we had people coming from all different backgrounds, but a lot of people did focus on the visual element part of it
Yeah.
more.
We had a lot of designers in my boot camp, and it was, you could
Okay.
do the first intro part and then that would work toward your full credit. And so you could see that they were like, oh, easy
Oh,
shift, easy pivot, pandemic, shifting industry. And I was
yeah.
like, oh, this is really interesting. And like you, like, I don't have that expertise.
Right. Yeah. No, I think my boot camp was more for people like more, I guess, it was very approachable for people coming in from like a completely new field that had no tech background or no knowledge of the field,
Nice.
which is one of the reasons I chose it. It just felt like I needed to streamline my learning process,
Yep.
and seemed like it was a good learning curriculum.
Yep. But you specialized.
Yes, I did. Yeah, so they had like specialty courses at the end of the bootcamp program that you could take.
Yeah.
So you did like the core UX design program, and then you had either I think it was the UI design specialty course. There was a voice design program, which at the time was basically creating experiences for voice enabled devices like Alexa, Siri,
Mhm.
and then also coding, front end coding. And I was like, since I had tried that, I was like, nope. And yeah, so and then UI design was oversaturated, so I was like, okay, what's voice design? Let me do this one. This will make me stand out. And also, I was able to tie it to music because it's all about voice and sound.
Yep.
So I had already had that music experience that I could tie into my story when I was switching or like getting into the field. So
Nice.
I didn't figure that out till much later, but I was eventually able to connect them.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Did you have any other things that you looked for in the boot camp?
No, mine was really just, well, it was found, I really wanted an introduction. I did not know for sure that this was for me, but I knew that I wanted to experience more and learn from experts to see if this was something that I could truly see myself in as a start over kind of career. And so it was that lower level of cost, that less time commitment because it was like 6 weeks or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so it was much shorter and I could do it part time, but still, what I think it gave me, yes, was that kind of grounding in what user experience and user interface design is, human centered design. It was a lot of design focus.
Right.
And also tools, practical tools like Figma and just design principles that now as a consultant, honestly, I use for slide design. I use for
Mhm.
even just the language that I use with developers and user experience designers on technical implementations. It was useful, but it also told me, you know what, with my background in leadership and project management and the things that I had built strengths in, it wasn't a good fit for me in terms of a next step. The principles and the values were there, but the practical application and the field wasn't a good fit.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you did the right boot camp kind of for where you were at the time.
Right. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I
'cause
think it's
mine
like
was a little
get that gut check before you jump fully in. If you aren't 100%, don't
exactly.
spend 100%.
Yeah, because I think I was that 100%. I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna dive into this
Yeah.
full time, like, this is what I wanna do."
Yep.
So, for my boot camp, it was like, well, the price it was 7,000, so it's kind of in the mid-range, I guess, of where boot camps could be.
Yep.
But, yeah, and then it was self-paced, so, they give you, like, 10 months to finish the core part of the program,
Yep.
but you can finish it as quickly as you want and work on it as many hours as you want. So I kind of treated it like a full-time job and spent like 8 to 12 hours working on it a day
Yeah.
because I really enjoyed it. And that
Yeah.
told me something, that told me a lot about, where I was going and that I did make the right choice.
That's
So,
awesome. Told you you were making the right choice, told me, maybe you should think about this. And
yeah. Right. Yeah. The other part of it was like completely virtual. So while
yeah.
I was like still interacting with people, and another thing was mentorship, they had a ton of mentors. So they had, yeah, so I could just like connect with the mentors virtually.
Yep.
But I had two mentors for my main course, a mentor for the specialty course, and then they also had a career course that you could take where they helped you create your resume, LinkedIn, portfolio, which you need as a designer. Yeah, it's your portfolio is basically a bunch of works that you've done that you can show people and kind of walk through your process. And um, so, yeah, I needed to put all of that together from scratch. It
Oh
was,
my gosh.
yeah, so I needed the help.
Well, and this shows that we were in two very different sides of music. Like I had
Mhm.
performed, but also I was deeply immersed in the business side of it in terms
Right.
of having had a LinkedIn for a long time and, having not necessarily looking for that technical expertise or that other side and thinking about more that general business opportunity. And you went specialty, boom. It's
Yeah.
just, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. We leverage each of our strengths differently, but also shows the variety of experience and direction that we can all have.
Yeah, it was tough at first just to like kind of connect because I didn't have that business knowledge. It took me a while to really be able to connect my music experience to tech.
Hmm.
and to kind of think through about how to communicate that to people.
Yeah, it fits so well to like how we thought about interviews and stuff, but maybe
Right.
before getting into that, like, so like, how did you find your jobs?
So that was basically a mix of applying to jobs and networking.
Okay.
So right out of the boot camp, I was really lucky with timing because my previous violin teacher had founded a startup and was looking for a UX designer, coincidentally. And it was just,
Perfect.
yeah, literally could not have been more perfect timing. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'll take any work at this point. Like, I would love to get real world experience and
Yeah.
start kind of building my resume and building my experience up and my skills. So, yeah, that I ended up getting about 5 months after I started the boot camp, which I was really lucky about. And then I kind of got involved with networking and more. I started attending a ton of events. I started participating in virtual conferences and other meetups that were going on. The community was very active during that time because no one was doing in person things.
I was gonna say
So I
these
was
were all virtual events, right?
yeah, virtual.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, everything was virtual, which was worked out to my advantage, I think, because I was
Yeah.
able to meet so many people that I wouldn't have met otherwise because they were all online and they weren't doing stuff in person.
Yeah.
Now is a different time.
Well, now you have to travel farther because you're in Sweden. So
Exactly.
if
Yeah.
they're in the US, I guess, even if they're in Europe, you're still like, whoop.
Right. Yeah. So basically, it was networking for the contract jobs that I got and then the first full time job that I got. And ever since, it's mostly been through my network. And if there's a
Mm.
job I really, really think is worth applying to, I will send in an application. But I think for the most part, it's been through friends or referrals and stuff. How about
Yep.
you?
Yeah, it was definitely, I mean, referrals and my trajectory. So I left my full time job in February and then I did part time work through the end of the spring semester.
Mhm.
And so then I was kind of like transitioning out of that, reflecting. And then it wasn't until probably, I don't know, like 4 or 5 months that I really started to think about some of these other things. And that's when I did the boot camp. But um, it was the both jobs that I applied for were from personal connections.
Mhm.
And one was through the course of just talking to friends and saying, I'm going through this journey. I think I'm going to move out of music. And then one of them said, I actually think I know something that you'd be really good at my
Mm.
husband's company. And so I talked to him and we started talking about that. And I was like, okay, I'm interested. Let's go. And then the other was talking to a former student, and she also was interested in user experience design. We were talking about, she was a trombone major, I was,
Oh, wow.
director of university and cello performance and all this stuff. And we're
Mhm.
like, oh yeah. She's like, you know what? I actually think you should talk to my partner. What they're doing at his company is really great. And they welcome people of non-traditional backgrounds. And I was like, well, I hadn't thought about consulting, but sure.
Mhm.
So for me, it was trusting people who knew me and
Yeah.
identifying opportunities that they brought to me, honestly, because I was still kind of on the early edge of thinking about it, but then
Right.
started talking to them and realized where I was getting excited, and then
Yeah.
started interviews.
That's amazing. Yeah, because I know it's so different for everyone, the job search.
Yeah.
I know people that send like 400 applications a week through like the easy apply on LinkedIn or send a general resume everywhere. And then other people that kind of like us, more through networking. And for me, it was more worthwhile to invest my time networking to make those connections and to kind of build my network first and then see where the jobs were.
And
But
if you think about it, it makes sense. You were really more on a technical level. And
that's
so
true.
it's different. For me, I was really saying, okay, here are the things I've done. I'm reshaping the environment in which I'm delivering them and the industry. So I had been
Mhm.
highly specialized in the performing arts where I was doing things like change management and project management. And now I was shifting into a corporate environment potentially where I was thinking about that. And so it was just a different way of telling the story of the same strengths in a lot of way, where you had to specialize and say, no, I need a new portfolio, I need these different things. And so
Right.
that's a really different shift too.
Exactly. So how was it for you, like, kind of translating your music experience on your resume, and did you do that through LinkedIn too, or what was that like for you?
I think I did shift a little bit on LinkedIn, but I knew that was useful only to the extent that people who were interviewing me or checking me out were going to see it. Not that I was, um, but a lot of what I did for the interview prep was going to, oh, first of all, like a ton of research and preparation, and then mindset preparation too. I want like both of those things were so important.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
I like scoured indeed.com, and they have this section of like, basically interview questions that people have been asked that they share as
Mm,
part of their engagement with that platform and job searching. So go to
yeah.
that because they'll show you what is likely going to come up. I used all of the questions I could find. I practiced my own answers.
Wow.
And again, it was something like I had or I'd like led a fundraising event for my nonprofit. How did that
Mhm.
show client engagement, impact, team leadership, pivoting in difficult situations, and then thinking about what that might mean for consulting or marketing research team, and just drafting all of that out. And
Oh
then
wow.
I practiced those answers and interviews with people like my sister-in-law, who had just graduated from Stanford's MBA program and had a lot of friends, and herself included, that were going through similar processes.
Wow.
Um, and that was really helpful. So just the practicing and the preparation. And then I had like 5 mantras that I had for like when I
Ooh.
actually was like getting, because when you're practicing, you have to think about, same way we did like for music auditions. You
Oh, of
have your
course, yeah.
power poses
Mhm.
and your mantras. I had the
Right?
same exact thing for my interview prep.
Yeah, for me, it was more I didn't really look up the questions so much because I was gonna get, like, specialized questions for my
Yeah.
field, but I did do, like, the deep dive research on the companies and the interview people as well,
Yes,
and,
that.
uh yes. Make sure you know who you're talking to, it's really important. Yeah, I s
Wait, to
well,
to that point though, I don't know if you did this too, but I had a Google Doc for every single interview that I
I
had.
did too,
Yes,
yeah, mhm.
and at the top, you put things about Peter, and then you list off a few things, because
Oh my
that's
gosh.
what helps you set the interviewer at ease, and also yourself to be like, "Hey, we're just humans having a conversation and exploring if this is a fit." It always
Exactly.
made me feel so much better, and I think it let the person know that I really cared. Um,
And
yeah.
yeah, shows you're invested and you're
Yes.
doing your research, and, it kinda gets you past that, like, small talk level and into kind of the deeper stuff, and I
Yeah.
think that really makes a difference, especially when you may not have that much time to kind of make an
Yes.
impression.
Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, I did all the, company and people research, and then I started once I started interviewing, I started kinda getting a better sense because I had no idea what to expect in these interviews.
Yeah.
So, I kind of did a couple, and then once I did those, I started building, like, a list of patterns that I was noticing in each interview.
Mm.
Um, so I started writing all the questions down, and I also started making a running list of questions that I ask the people interviewing me.
Yeah.
And depending on who's interviewing, I ask a different set of questions. But I do have like a core set that kind of work for each company, and then I'll throw in like one or two specialized or targeted ones as well.
It's so helpful to have that documented. When I transferred offices within my current company, I had to interview again.
Oh
And
wow.
having all of that documented made it easy for me when I was still in the midst of like intense client engagement to look back and say, okay, how did I articulate my why? Okay, here it is. Here's how I just had to tweak it rather than prepare for a fresh interview. Um,
Right, right.
Yeah, so it makes such a difference. And also then if you think about resumes, right? Like how that
Mhm.
connects what they've read on your resume to the person that they're talking to right now. Um,
Yeah.
and I will say too, just like I would highly recommend referrals as a place to get your foot in the door whenever you can. That's how I got my foot in the door at the current company. I handed over
Yeah.
my resume, and they were able to my connection was able to speak to that
Mhm.
gave that recruiter a little more of a boost to say, oh, okay, this person is highly thought of. People that know your work getting you a referral, like, always the way to go.
Oh,
But
it makes such a
yeah.
difference, especially in this job market. It's yeah, wild.
Truly.
For me, it was hard because it took me a while to kind of build my resume to the point where I didn't have so much music stuff on it.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, when I was fresh out of the boot camp, that was the only thing I had that was related to tech. Everything else was music. So I had to kind of start piling stuff together. And, part of it was like doing my own projects and just kind of putting that on the resume, showing that I'm learning and keeping an open mind and getting involved and volunteer stuff. I started getting involved in an ethics group. And then I did, some other, I was on another podcast. So
How dare you? No.
I put that on my resume, and
Awesome.
I started like building it in pieces through like my own projects and getting my own involvement in certain aspects until I had that work experience where I could just like remove that, and it was it was fine.
That entrepreneurial freelancer, mindset that
Oh
you've
my
had
god.
certainly paid off there, huh?
Yeah, that was, I mean, it took a while, but it was it was worth it to dive right in and kind of do all that stuff.
My gosh. My resume work was more of a reframe, like in the same way that I had to
Mhm.
think about the stories on my interviews, right? But it was I had and a lot of musicians have this, if you do teaching, you have a teaching resume as, a professional musician. You have a performance
Mhm.
resume that talks about your orchestra and your chamber music. And then I had an administrative resume where I talked about my nonprofit work, my
Oh, wow.
consulting for different community engagement groups, and my work at the university. And so
Mhm.
that I was able to shift, but that little boot camp came in handy, and I did it on Figma. So
Oh.
I was like, oh, this is pretty. It'll stand out. If I was interested in user experience design, I was like, they can see I have a design
Yeah.
eye.
Oh my gosh, that's
Very
funny.
different from like the Word that I had before, just ugly document.
Yeah.
But my dad put on there, like performed or like wowed and inspired groups as large as 20,000 people. And I
Oh
think I
my
mentioned
gosh.
this from that Kygo performance that I had
Yeah.
in Chicago. It's still on there. I don't know how long it'll be there, but there were some things
It's
that snuck
impressive.
in from music. Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah,
like, okay.
yeah, absolutely. Well, that shows you can, like, be in front of a large audience and present, and it shows, leadership and presentation skills, which are
Maybe,
important.
or
Yeah.
at least it's an interesting talking point. Okay, so Emily, we talked about our interview prep, our process. What was the offer part like for you?
Ooh, that was a whole new concept to me for, what you get compared to being a musician. So, a lot of times I mostly had to put together, like, a range of salary that I wanted.
That
Um
wasn't offered on like the job description or anything?
No, and
Oh,
they're
okay.
doing better about being transparent about it now,
Thank
but
goodness.
at the time, they were just like, "What are you looking for?"
Yeah.
And then I heard conflicting advice whether you should share it or not, or ask them first, like, "Oh, what's your range?"
Yeah.
And then kind of tailor your response to that. But when I did have to put together something, I researched, like, what was the going rate in my location, and what was the other rate at like other companies,
Yeah.
and kind of put together an average based on, and you have to factor in your experience too, but you also don't want to lowball yourself.
Right.
So that was my problem. I think I didn't have enough confidence to like ask for what I really wanted.
Mm.
Yeah, so I think that those together, I came up with a range, and I usually did like a $10,000 range just to give them flexibility. And then I was like, but I'm flexible if you have another number that in mind. How
Yep.
about you?
Yeah, oh, it's so interesting thinking back to this. I was going through two different interview cycles at two companies,
Mhm.
and I got an offer from one company, a marketing research firm, before I had an offer, and I was still going through the process at the consulting firm. But I was time bound. I had to give an answer at the first company,
Mhm.
and so I had to go back and say, "Hey, I have another offer. I would really be interested in working here, but I, would like to just hear if that's a possibility." They were thinking about a few different things for me. So part of the salary negotiation came down to title because I was a
Mhm.
career shifter, but I had a lot of leadership experience, including working with
Oh,
executive
okay.
boards and some things. They were thinking they could put me at a higher level, but knew that that might be an unfair ask or placement based on my lack of consulting experience. So
Mhm.
ultimately, they opted to put me at a slightly lower level, but with a higher salary range. There was a range given
Okay.
by the talent acquisition person, and
Hmm.
then I was able. And first of all, that range was like double of what I was getting at the university. So
Wow.
I had the sticker shock before I even got the offer, and said, "Wow, okay, this is a change for me, big time."
Mhm.
What
Yeah.
I was really excited about, and still kind of like, "Oh my gosh, are you really going to pay me that much?" But I did negotiate, and
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, that's something I need to get better at, and I'm
it
still
takes
working on.
practice.
It does.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And
tough.
something also to consider is not just the base salary, but the benefits. Like if you
Heck
have
yes.
restricted stock units, that's something you can factor in. You can also factor in like vacation time or
That's when
um,
I tried to
yeah.
negotiate on vacation, and they said no. Um,
Oh, well, at
but
least you asked.
I
And
asked.
yeah.
Yep,
Yeah. And there are other ways or like perks that you can do that count as, I guess, like your salary, or
exactly.
that can be factored in.
And everybody
So,
has different priorities, whether it's a health package or,
or
like you said,
location, like
stock,
work.
location, remote.
Yeah. Yeah. Remote. It is amazing to work remote for me, at least. It works for my lifestyle right now. So that's like a big perk for me.
Yep,
But I know it depends on the person, the company, different factors.
yep,
Going from music to tech, like the salaries, at least for within UX design, when I was first transitioning, the
yeah,
salaries for like a junior position, which is kind of like entry level,
right.
were around like $80,000, and then regular UX designer was around like three figures, low three figures, and then a senior could be like mid three figures. So that was just like mind blowing to me. And then on top of the other things, it
Oh my gosh.
was just
I know. Well, yeah,
yeah.
when I looked at this and said, "Wait a minute, this is a six-figure salary," and
Mm.
which is not uncommon in consulting, that's
Right.
standard, but
Oh, yeah, yeah, and then also, like, the difference between contract and full-time is something you have to consider as well.
oh,
Like,
yeah.
if you're contracting, you have to ask for a lot more because you don't get the benefits.
Oh, right, yep.
So, maybe some do, but, like, for the most part, you're working on a 1099, you don't get vacation time, you don't get healthcare. It's, just something else to factor into the salary.
Yeah, exactly, like, know your priorities, know your limits, your risks, your dependencies, all of that. Obviously, any kind of standard interview advice, that's not revolutionary, but certainly when you're coming to the table, know what you need and what you can compromise on.
For sure.
Yeah. So I had, and I'd be curious to hear like how many interviews you had. I had two informal ones with people at the company because it was a referral. So I was able to talk to some of those people. And then I
Right.
had two recruiters. And then I had four formal interviews with consultants. And that was for the consulting firm I'm at now. And
Mhm.
then the marketing research firm I interviewed at, I think I had three total interviews. And it was like
Wow.
initial, like more senior person, and then kind of offer.
Mm. Yeah, mine was kind of like super varied. It depended because with
Mm.
contract, it was just like if it was usually a friend or someone I knew. Um, so I would just have like an informal conversation with them, and they'd be like, "Okay, when can you start?" It was a lot less formal than like the corporate corporate interview process, and
Yeah.
especially with the startup, it was just like, "Okay, well, let's do a test project and see how it goes," and then it turned into more work from that.
You were gonna be
But
paid for the test project though, right?
yes. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
No, even if I wasn't, like, I know it's not good to do free work, but it's, I was like, "It's real world experience, and I need that right now,
Yeah.
and I will take it no matter what."
Yeah.
So, yeah, but for the other interviews, I had a one-way interview where they gave us a list of questions, and I had to record my answers.
So
And
strange.
that was an experience. Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan, and
How many times
musicians
did you record it?
so many times. It was so terrible. Hours, like, just
Oh,
going back and
no.
forth, and I mean, it went well. Like, I ended up getting the job eventually, but it was not an experience I'd like to do again.
Oh my
Yeah, and then, I've had portfolio interviews where, you go through, like, a case study from your portfolio, and you kinda walk them through your process, and I had 2 of those, and then I had, talks with the teams that I'd be working with, so those were more, like, kind of formal chats. And then I went through a ton of recruiter interviews too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And those I kind of had to learn how to speak to recruiters.
Yeah.
Because at the beginning I was terrible at it. Oh yeah, I had a test project that I had to do for one of my jobs that was not paid. I had to walk through the results from that. But I think that covers most of the types of interviews that I did.
Oh, with the recruiter interviews, were they for a specific job at a company or more like working for an agency where they were like looking to place you or?
It was a mix of both.
Okay. When you found, and so you did a lot of part-time work, and then, I think it's so important to talk about how you realized it's the right fit, right? When you finally do have that job, you're like, they're excited about this, and I'm excited about this. And I think especially if you have the chance to talk to a lot of people at the company, like I did, I talked to 8 people at this
Oh, wow.
company,
Oh
right?
my goodness. That's a
It
lot.
it's a lot, 2 informal from the referral, 2 recruiters,
Mhm.
and then 4 consultants.
Yeah.
And I had done my research. I had watched videos of the leadership. I looked at their values. I looked at how they were making an impact and their kind of, commitment to like United Nations. There were all these bigger things. And it was like, yes, okay, I feel ethically, like you're talking about making impact. That was important to me
Right.
too, especially coming from nonprofit, social impact, higher education. You see the impact you're making every day very directly. And I knew this
Yeah.
was going to be a change where if this was a company that I didn't feel was connected to things at a similar level, I would have issues diving in and giving my all. Um,
Right.
but I realized it was a good fit because I loved the people. They were caring, they were smart. It was
Yeah.
like I felt like I was talking to friends, but in a professional way, not in like a buddy way, in a way that like you take your job seriously, but not yourself seriously, and you genuinely care who I am. And almost a lot of times it went over with consent. It was like, "Hey, are you gonna
Yeah. Yeah.
stay on a
Yeah.
few minutes?"
Mhm.
And I knew they were busy, and I knew that meant that there was some good energy here.
Yeah, that means they like you and they wanna keep talking to you, and that's always a good sign.
And I liked them. It was great.
Yeah, and that's how I felt when I talked to the people that I ended up working for.
Right.
I just knew, like, we had a great conversation. It was very exciting for me, and I knew I would be excited to get up and do my job every
Yes,
day, and that was
exactly.
so important.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was one thing I was not gonna compromise on. I was like, "If I'm gonna make the switch, I'm
yes,
gonna do what I do,"
yes.
and I feel lucky that I've been able to do that.
Yeah, same, absolutely.
Um,
For I looked up, like, kind of time range from initial interview to, like, when you start a new job. I Mine was about 2 months.
oh,
Um,
wow.
what
Mhm.
was yours like?
Well, I guess for the contract jobs, it wasn't that
Right.
long just because it was informal and I could start pretty much right away or, like, pretty soon after, but for the other corporate jobs, it took about maybe a month or 2?
Yeah.
It was pretty short, yeah.
Yeah, it does vary. I think the only reason mine took 2 months is because 1, I was a referral, 2, I was non-traditional, and then 3, I didn't apply to one specific job, right? I was referred to be considered for open positions, and that meant that, especially with a non-traditional career, and I think that's another thing for career shifters, they might love you and not know quite what to do with you,
Mhm.
potentially, and that's, your job to make the case and to clearly articulate what you're interested in, right? Like, I had to say, "I'm interested in, like, the business services, the
Mhm.
organizational change," and that helped them say, "Okay, here's where we put her if you don't apply to a specific job and rather you're in a pool of referrals." So
Right,
there's a little bit of just like opportunity and accountability with that kind of approach.
of course.
It worked out, but I felt that exploration in the interviews, and I said, "Oh wow,
Mhm.
okay, they need to know where I am in this really so they can be directed."
Yeah, I that's the opposite for me because, like, I knew what role I was going into. I knew, like, what I needed to
Yeah.
do it. So it was yeah, it was kinda more strict, like, fit in the guidelines of, "Can you use these tools? Can you do these things?" So, but yeah, I knew of some people that had to go through, like, 6 months of interviews and, like, over 6, 7 rounds of interviews, and it was just so long.
Yeah, and the emotional anticipation of, "I have an interview
Oh, I know.
today," right? It's yeah.
Mhm.
Performance
Yeah.
anxiety.
Yep. So, what was your mindset when you interviewed? Because I know for me, it was like I kind of shifted my mindset from what I had in music. And I was like, okay, well, it's kind of a two-way street. So I kind of went in like with more confidence, I think, than I normally would have.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Um, Remember I said I had mantras? Like,
Yes.
I had to pump myself up. I can read a few. If anyone listening, if you need a pump up, this is what helped me, and you can create your own. But one of mine was, "You have performed in much more stressful situations before and succeeded."
Mm.
And so it kind of put into perspective the interview because you can put a lot of pressure on yourself.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
I think that you have the ability to think on your feet, and you have done that. You have proven yourself as a leader that believes in meaningful change and investing in people. You are not afraid to take risks and to be 100% authentically yourself, even if it may ruffle some feathers. Okay, well, maybe that one's not relevant to everybody, but I
Oh,
think it
no,
was,
thank you for sharing those.
well, just, yeah, and
Yeah,
mindset matters because,
it
and
does.
I think in addition to the confidence I had in myself, it was just leading with curiosity, right?
Yeah, that was the biggest thing for me, and also, to me, it felt like if I got rejected, it wasn't gonna be as personal
Yeah.
as it was in music.
Mm.
So, I think that also helped being like, "Yeah, I could just apply to another job, or I could find something else that'll be a better fit."
You know,
So
there is something, like, we talked about kind of the identity that we had as musicians, and I think we talked about this with a
mhm,
few of our guests as well. There's something beautiful about becoming, like, a multi-hyphenate where you're adding an identity because it puts less pressure on the other one, but it doesn't take away from the fact that it exists. So it lets you be more than one
exactly.
thing as your definition of success, and that's really important and needed.
Absolutely, yeah. What do you think best set you up for success?
I think it's good we're just talking about mindset because for me, it was taking that sabbatical.
Mm,
I needed this space without having to produce in a job environment and be so on. I was working part-time, but then that scaled back and I really had space to just think about where I'd been, what I'd learned from that, what I wanted next, and my why for entering any new job or interview or field. And
mm,
that set up, I think, the best mental space I could have to show up for those interviews and really think about that intentional next step. I think without that, I might have been reactive, um, and just kind of perpetuated some of the things that I wanted to shift away from and to grow into for my next step. So yeah, that sabbatical was a big one.
yeah.
How
For
about you?
me, I think it was learning and just taking
Mm,
every opportunity that I could, just diving headfirst into everything and joining Slack and Discord channels and other communities and setting up coffee chats and talking to
mm,
people in the industry, attending events and conferences, both virtual and in person, like I mentioned, and in person when they came back. and,
yeah,
and it was great because by that time, when they had come back, I had kind of gotten to know people in the community and was able to, like, I felt like I already had a group of friends that I met for the first time at the in-person conference, and
yeah.
it was just really cool. And then yeah, I ended up doing a hackathon and getting a contract job out of that. So it was basically getting involved with as much as I could, which kind of helped me build my brand and network, and also set up the foundation to kind of establish myself as an expert in the field.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so interesting. You were already ready to like pivot, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I know I'm gonna get there, but to like dive in and do the learning, I need a beat.
Right. I mean, for me, if I'm not 100% committed, I don't I half-ass it, and it's just not great.
Not great.
Um,
Nope.
and plus I wanted to, like, I loved learning about this stuff and I loved talking
Yeah.
to people. It was the people that is so
Yes.
interesting, so many people from so many different backgrounds and fields and stuff. So
You gotta go toward that energy, and when you're on fire like that, it's telling you something. When you want to
yeah.
spend 8 hours doing boot camp stuff, I
Yeah,
mean,
it
that's
told me a
that's
lot because
awesome.
I definitely didn't wanna practice all day, so that was the when I was young, I used to record myself playing with a tape recorder and then play the tape recorder so my parents would think I was practicing. So
Oh, sneaky.
I know. I was terrible. I hated practicing,
Oh my
but
gosh.
yeah. Do you
Amazing.
have any advice for people going through the switch?
Yes. Yes, I do, Emily. I think what define your why. I think
Mhm.
those values that you have that you're bringing to a job will help you stay grounded and not get um, distracted by other things like a big salaries are great. I'm not saying that, but just
Yeah.
say connected to why you are doing this rather than what other people are doing or the comparison games or any of that. It really, that helped ground me so much. And I think it was a big asset. So there are three things. That was the first. The second was like, do your research about what's realistic for your timeline and your needs before investing too much time and money. Like we talked about our different bootcamp approaches. It was right for me to think about $500, which is not a small chunk of change, especially for people not working. But before I jumped into anything further, thinking about getting that clarity on what this career would be like, what it would feel like, how it actually translated my skills versus how I read on the internet it would translate my skills. And talk to people, just dip your toe in before you go all out if you're not sure. And then the last thing is like assess the risks of your needs in the timeline to think about that trajectory too. For me, it was 8 months from when I left my full-time job to when I started my next job. And being clear about your needs helps inform what possibilities there might be so that you are intentional, strategic, supported through that. How about you?
I love that. That's such great advice.
No, thanks. I thought about it. It's hard because again, it's been a few years since we've done this, but it's like, oh, I was grateful for the chance to reflect on this because it's hard, but we learned a lot through going through this, and hopefully other people find support through hearing our perspectives.
Yeah. For me, it's always keep an open mind and don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone because you never know where a connection or opportunity might lead.
Yeah.
And it's taken me so many places I did not ever expect. So just, that's been a huge thing for me. And be careful not to let work consume you too. That's been another thing because sometimes I overdo it sometimes.
Ongoing, maybe.
I think that's, But also know that you bring a unique perspective and you are going to be contributing something valuable to a company, to whatever work you're doing. Yeah. So just recognize that you are valuable.
Love it. It's, it's that like wherever you go, there you are. And for better or for worse, what you're talking about, not letting work consume you. I found a lot of the same stuff in myself that I did when I was in the performing arts, when I was in consulting. And it's like, oh, great. So this is actually a me thing that I have to keep working on. And
same. Yeah.
Logically, it makes sense, right? But then you think, oh, I'm shifting industries. These things are going to be different. There's so many more variables and difference to where I was before. And you're like, oh, wait a minute. I'm still here.
It's right. Exactly. And it's a lot better than I was like when I was doing music, but it's still
the power of age.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. Well, is there anything we haven't shared that we want to before we wrap up?
I think I've covered everything on my end. I know we have a lot coming up for our next episode because we're going to be talking about our day-to-days and what it's like being, well, for me, a content and conversation designer, and then also for Allegra being a consultant. So yeah, I'm really excited to dive into that.
Yeah, that nebulous word consultant. What does that mean? Stay tuned.
I know.
Stay tuned for more. We're really grateful to everyone who has listened to our journeys. We, of course, always want to hear your journey. Did you make a career shift? What did you learn? What would have been helpful that you might want to share with other people? So thanks, everybody, for joining us. We look forward to seeing you on our next episode.
My Career Journey is produced by Emily Banzhaf and Allegra Montanari. If you enjoy our content, follow us wherever you get your podcasts and find us on YouTube and Instagram at My Career Journey Pod. Thanks for listening.